We have some massive news coming out here. The Los Angeles Lakers are officially signing Drew Timme to a two-way contract, which means this guy can actually play for the Lakers, and I'm excited about this one, man. Drew Timme was one of my favorite players coming out of college, and unfortunately for him, he's not super athletic, super explosive, and, some executives around the NBA did not like the potential and upside. And they did not feel like this guy could ultimately work out, and although he struggled a little bit, he's kind of found himself kind of bouncing back in his NBA career. The Lakers are in the process of finalizing a two-way contract with Drew Timme. This is according to Brett Siegel of Clutch Points. And another interesting tidbit is that the Lakers will not be cutting Nick Smith Jr. So they'll need to waive either Christian Koloko or Chris Mignon to sign Drew Timme. Let's talk about this. So just that second part that Brett Siegel's kind of throwing out there, obviously the Lakers already have three players on a two-way contract, guys that can essentially split time between the G League and the official roster. And they have three guys, and Nick Smith's the guy that's kind of played a lot for the Lakers this season. I shouldn't say a lot, but he played when the Lakers had a bunch of injuries. Smith kind of stepped up, and he was kind of the ball handler for the Lakers in those games. I believe there was the time when Luka was kind of out. And, we're now at the point where the Lakers are going to have to make a decision. You can sign Drew Timme to the two-way contract, but then you got to cut Christian Koloko or Chris Mignon. And I think it's pretty straightforward at this point. I wouldn't expect him to cut Chris Mignon because he's looked pretty good in his G League games as well this season. Christian Koloko will probably end up getting waived. At least if I'm a betting man, I think he's the guy that's going to end up getting waived. And keep in mind, what that means is Christian Koloko is going to get waived, and essentially any other team out there could claim him. Now, if he clears the waiver process, the Lakers could technically bring him back and sign him to just like a standardized G League contract where he only spends time with the G League roster at that point. But there's also a chance he would get picked up, and I think there's a real chance Christian Koloko gets picked up. Now, the Lakers could also say, hey, we're going to move off of Chris Mignon. I think he's less likely to get picked up, to be honest with you guys. I don't know. I just feel like NBA executives have this thing with athletic big men, right? Even if they're not like super talented. We'll see what ends up happening, right? Either way, let's talk a little bit about Drew Timme, because this guy's kind of had an interesting story up to this point. He obviously went undrafted in the 2023 NBA draft. He was considered one of the best scoring big men coming out of that 2023 NBA draft. But of course, executives felt he wasn't going to translate to the NBA, and he spent some time with the Milwaukee Bucks. He wasn't there for that long in the 2023 Summer League. I'm pretty sure they waived him before the Summer League even ended. And then he went and joined the Sacramento Kings in 2024, specifically their G League team. Then went to the Nets G League team. The Nets actually called him up. And one of the crazy things is this guy played extended minutes with the Nets last year, and he wasn't that bad, man. 28 minutes per game. He averaged 12.1 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, and 2.2 assists. Now, that was in 9 games, but again, he played 28 minutes for the New York Nets on average over those 9 games. To me, that is pretty damn impressive for your very first time in the NBA, right? And again, it's kind of interesting because even more than that, the Nets ended up letting him go. Even though he showed a little bit of upside and potential, they ended up letting him go, and the Lakers were able to kind of bring him over. And I watched some of these G League games. I'm going to be honest, man, Drew Timme looks like the best player on that G League roster. And you see the flashes that he had shown kind of in college. And some people are speculating now. What does this actually mean for the Lakers? You're bringing in a guy like Drew Timme who, where does he play for the Lakers? And then whose role is this guy replacing? Now, one of the things with Timme is he's not a very, very explosive player, right? Athletically, he's also not that good on the defensive side. He's been exposed in the past, but to be fair, he has gotten better on the defensive side. And I also think one of the best ways to get better, especially on defense, is to take real live reps in a real NBA game. That speed that happens at that NBA level, you don't get that in the G League. But he has looked better in the G League recently, and I do think that if he gets time in the NBA, who knows what this guy can develop into. Drew Timme is an offensive scorer, right? He can get down in the post. He can score points in the post. He does a pretty good job handling the ball. He can shoot threes as well. To me, he's a guy that just has a ton of upside and potential from an offensive standpoint, but he'll have to show what he can do on defense if he wants real minutes with the Lakers. Now, some people do think that you have a guy like Maxi Kleber who hasn't really played a lot for the Lakers this season. When he first came back from that injury, in that first game, I think he played like 10, 11 minutes. And I think he had one game recently where he actually played an extended amount, and he looked pretty good. I forget who that team was. I think it was 2 or 3 games ago. He had a couple of nice plays that he had made, and really, Drew Timme is kind of the Maxi Kleber replacement, if you want to call it that. And maybe the Lakers are just trying to figure out how they can use a guy like Drew Timme. Maybe they can trade Maxi Kleber, right? Maybe it's something that Rob Pelinka has already had trade discussions for potentially as well. Maybe Rob Pelinka knows that Maxi Kleber is the guy that a lot of people are asking, hey, if we're going to make a trade, he's the guy that we want. And with that, if you trade that role, then you got to replace it, right? So some people are speculating that this is why the Lakers are potentially bringing in Drew Timme to the two-way contract, is because they feel that, hey, Maxi Kleber could ultimately be traded, and you got to replace that role somehow, right? Essentially, this is a guy that can shoot threes. He can space the floor. He's tall, so he can rebound, but he's not super athletic. Neither is Maxi Kleber. So we'll just see what ends up kind of happening as we go forward, man. I do like the fact that the Lakers are giving this guy a real opportunity. Again, when he was coming out of that 2023 NBA draft, I remember actually watching him in college during the tournament. He was legit, right? Like, you saw him have a phenomenal career at Gonzaga. The guy dominated, right? And for some reason, he's still undrafted. And he's just kind of worked his way up at this point. And remember, he's still super young. So we don't know what the upside is with Drew Timme. But I like what we're kind of seeing right now. And again, we'll see who the Lakers end up releasing, right? Again, I think it'll probably be Christian Koloko. We'll see what ends up happening. There's another report that did come out. JJ Redick gave us a little bit of insight. And this kind of goes with this Drew Timme report almost, if you really think about it. JJ Redick said that he is not beholden to the Lakers starting lineup with the return of LeBron James. And he said specifically, and he was asked about, how the starters went and kind of what his thoughts with LeBron returning was. And he said, it was good. He said, there were stretches that I thought it was really good. There were stretches that I didn't think it was great. We're going to continue to make decisions based on how the team is playing and how the group works together. I'm not beholden to one thing throughout the season, but I feel comfortable with that lineup. They played a ton of minutes together at the end of last season, -8, and so we'll continue to build on that. So to me, what JJ Redick is basically saying in this report is that I'm not committed to one starting lineup. I'm not committed to the guys that started, even though LeBron, Rui, Luka, Austin Reeves had a lot of playing time at the end of last season. I'm not committed to those 4 guys and DeAndre Ayton being the 5-man starting unit, essentially, right? He's saying, I will make whatever change we need to really fine tune it. And I like this approach by JJ Redick, right? I think this makes the most sense not to stick with one, starting rotation, even though the Lakers had a lot of success with that rotation. I don't think it makes sense to say we're 100% committed to this. Now, it is also interesting to note because the only change you can really make with that unit is probably Rui Hachimura, right? You may be able to swap him out with Marcus Smart, or you may be able to swap him out with Jake LaRavia. To me, I think that's probably the only realistic option the Lakers could go with. They could also potentially start a guy like, Maxi Kleber ends up having a lot of success. Maybe you start him, and then LeBron goes to the 3, but even then, I'm not 100% sure if that would make sense for the Lakers. But I like the fact that JJ Redick's not committing to a starting lineup because, remember, this is a brand new roster that's kind of come together. From guys like Smart to even Ayton, right? Ayton's technically first year with the Lakers, to even guys like Jake LaRavia and even beyond that, there's some other guys that have kind of come over to the Lakers that have contributed a little bit this season. I think for the Lakers, as you go forward, you got to keep fine tuning this starting role, the even more than the starting role, the guys that are kind of coming off the bench. And JJ Redick is essentially putting it out there that we're not committed to any of these lineups. I want to see guys like Maxi Kleber, and I know some people don't like him all too much. I think there's a lot of upside with him, man. I think he's a consistent shooter. He can space the floor well, and he's super smart. And I'm not saying 100% to just start him, but I want to see him play more. For example, Jared Vanderbilt to me doesn't provide a whole lot for the Lakers. I know he can play defense, but he's inconsistent as a shooter. He's not the smartest player out there either, right? Like sometimes he gets confused, he gets out of position. He's great in a one-on-one defensive situation, but when it comes to team defense, he might struggle sometimes. Uh, so I think, that from the team element of this for the Lakers, maybe guys like Maxi Kleber, if you give him an opportunity to start, and even if it's not start, but just play more minutes, I think it could benefit the Lakers more as we go forward. And again, I like the fact that JJ Redick is going to stay fluid with this entire, figuring it out, given the teams just got healthy. I also want to see what Adel Thero can play with like real starting caliber minutes. Let's put that guy out there, LeBron James. Let's just see what he can do. Something tells me there is some real upside with this guy. And we'll also see if Drew Timme gets any opportunity to play here soon. The Lakers obviously ended up sending both Thero and Bronny James to the G League, so we might not see those guys here for a while, but that could also just be because of the fact that the Lakers were off for an extended amount of days. They don't play again until Sunday against the Utah Jazz. And then even after that, man, you still got a couple days off. So we'll see what ends up happening, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.